supposed to give a talk today myself, but I've been so busy that I haven't planned anything, so I'm just going to speak to my heart just for a few minutes. As I said, my name is Susan Long, and I'm from the South Boston Plus Tea Party. And the reason I became involved in the Tea Party is because the America that I knew as a child is not the America that there is today. For example, when I was a young child, I lived in the housing project in South Boston. And I believed, and I dared to dream, that if I worked hard and I persevered, that I could be anything that I wanted to be. I wanted one day to own my own home and my own car and to have a family and an education. And all those things were made possible because I live in America. There are other countries where there are caste systems and the socioeconomic background that you want into is where you stay. But here in America, we have the right to dream. When I was a child, I also learned about immigration and about how my parents came to this country, not my parents, my great-grandparents came to this country, and other groups. They came from all parts of the world because they wanted to have a better life for their children and for themselves. When they came, they had sponsors who would make sure that they weren't dependent upon the government in order to, succeed in America. They had people who were looking out for them and who showed them the way. Those immigrants, when they came to America, they wanted to speak the language. My own people came from Galway. And it wasn't an easy time for them. A lot of them came being Coventry, England, on their way here. And several of them died in the workhouses over there. They never made it to America. But for those who did make it to America, they had a dream. And they worked hard. They scrubbed floors. They worked for the Yankees that lived in Boston as housekeepers and housemaids so that they could give their children a better way of life. They told their children that they shouldn't be speaking the Irish that they came to this country with, but that they should learn to speak English because they were Americans. This was the America that I knew and loved as a child. And I say it's time that we take that America back. When I was a child, I also learned an awful lot about veterans. And veterans is something that's very special to me and to my heart. I can remember in 3rd grade I had a teacher, and this was during the 60s, so there was a lot of anti-American sentiment, but I had a teacher who taught me the poem Flanders Fields, where the poppies blow between the crosses row on row. And the last part of that poem stuck in my mind forever. It said, take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high, for if ye break faith, with us to die, we shall not sleep till poppies blow Flanders Fields. Since then, many, many, many Americans have sacrificed their lives, opportunities, and some have been injured in the name of freedom, because freedom is not free. Take a look around this island and you'll see the Korean War memorials and the World War II memorials. And you'll talk to the Vietnam veterans who didn't receive the homecoming that they should have. And you'll see people like my son Todd, who volunteered after 9/11, signed up for 8 years in the military, who survived Iraq only to be severely injured in Djibouti, Africa, off the coast of Somalia. 230% disability, brain injury, fractures from head to foot. And the first thing he said to me was when he came out of a coma, I want to go back and fight for my country. That's the America I know. And my son Billy, who will be returning to Afghanistan for a 5th tour of duty in the military out of from New York. And I said, but Billy, you don't have to go. Your brother's already been injured. He said, Mom, this is what I do. I'm a soldier. I'm an American. I protect this country. Well, our soldiers deserve our respect when they come home. This is the America I learned about. This is the America I love. And I say to you, it is time we take America back. While we're on the topic of immigration and on the topic of veterans, I've got to tell you that it gets my Irish up, my American Patricia, to learn that Mr. Obama's aunt is living in public housing that was built for the veterans, while we have homeless veterans living in the streets of Boston. We've got to change that. People want to come here, they've got to come here legally, and they've got to do the right thing. I'd like to talk on another subject, which is health care. All Americans have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and yet we have over 50,000 children who weren't born in the name of choice. Those are the same people who would have been working in McDonald's and picking the food, but instead we have foreigners doing it because they were never born. I have a lot of patients up at Marion Manor, where I work in a long-term care facility, who have Alzheimer's. Some of them have people who visit all the time. Some of them have nobody that visits them. But they're my family. I have 44 patients that I care for on a regular basis. Those are my family. Those are my people. I love every one of them like a member of my family. And I'll be damned, excuse the language, if I'm going to let this new health care tell me that they don't have the right to life, that they can take a suicide pill instead of having the care that they deserve and the respect they get. They were somebody's mother, somebody's aunt, somebody's friend, somebody's neighbor. Some of them served in the military. They're all human beings, and they all have the right to life. And education, another thing that's dear to my heart. Before I became a nurse, and I'm going to be a nurse practitioner soon, I worked as a teacher. And I found that a lot of the teachers, there were a lot of very good teachers who cared about the students. There were also a lot of teachers who were more interested in their political agenda. When I first started school in Quincy, in elementary school, they hadn't had a Veterans Day program for 30 years. And I was considered radical because I told my children they were going to participate. They gave me the class that nobody wanted. Kids who had what was called IEPs. They were all considered special needs students. They had 18 of them, 15 of them boys. And I got them up on the stage, and they learned to talk about things that they had never done before. They learned to recite poems and to sing When Johnny Comes Marching Home Again. And they loved being where they were because somebody showed that they cared about those kids. And what's more, everyone's complaining about MCAS. We didn't have any MCAS because it's too much to try to teach students certain things. Well, let me tell you, all of the kids in my class, with the exception of one, and all of them were special needs students, passed an MCAS because they learned about American history, not revisionist history. They learned about reading, writing, and arithmetic, not sex education, not being social, not self-esteem. As I told them, self-esteem comes from doing the right thing. When you lack self-esteem, it's because you're doing the wrong thing. We don't have to give you self-esteem. You have to earn it. No government is known as the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And unfortunately, as you heard the other speakers say, this isn't the case. People are very interested in preserving their own jobs. And I know that even living in South Boston as a kid, you always voted for someone because they're your neighbor, or because they're your friend, or because you went to school with somebody, or because you hung out in the same bar room with them. Whatever the situation was, that's how you voted. But it's time for us to wake up, and I think a sleeping giant is being awakened, and it's time for us to stand up and to vote for people who are going to be public servants, who are going to be stewards of this land, and to represent the people of America.